Good afternoon, everyone. We will resume now with questions to staff. The way I would like to approach this is we will have questions, first of all, exclusively to the Auditor General's office, and then upon completion of those, they are welcome to stay or leave at their own choice. And then we'll go to questions to all our other staff, followed by discussion, debate of the current amending motion and then the main motion. So I have on my list, Councillor Brockton, your questions were to Auditor General as well? Mostly to staff. Okay. Okay. If you can stick with those, and then we'll go back on the list if we've got other questions. So please go ahead.
So just to the Auditor General, I was expecting more comment from you both this morning. You basically said you've done your analysis, but my report is not yet ready. Can you comment on the recommendations before us? Do you think this is the best recommendation under the circumstances for us? Is there anything that you can flag for this committee before we make a decision? I'm just looking for additional comment.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair to Councillor Brockington, our role in this project came from a direction given to us back in July 2014. In the audit of the Source Separated Organics program, we found fault in the lead up to the program. We found fault in the volumes that were incorporated into the program, and that audit stands for itself. And we recommended that staff look at the termination costs around that contract and determine whether or not, number one, the project should continue with the supplier, and included in that, staff was to take a closer look at a city-owned and city-operated facility as well, because that particular scenario was not examined in any detail in the lead up to what was eventually the request for proposals that led to the contract that exists today. And the question that arose then was if there were such significant problems in the development of the data that eventually led to the contract, how could council trust staff to do that analysis? And the direction that was given was that we would look at staff's analysis to determine that it was accurate and that their assumptions were reasonable in the circumstances. Now, in 4 years later, after that recommendation, there's been significant litigation. I think that's been well discussed and addressed. And the city has a better handle on what quantity of organics are available in the program. That was largely unknown 4 years ago because it was there wasn't a significant track record. And since then, staff, as you know, have negotiated a new arrangement or a new possible arrangement with OrgaWorld after a couple of changes in the ownership of the company. The Office of the Auditor General was not involved in any of those activities, but we were dutifully waiting for this analysis to be completed. And as you know, this analysis was completed on the 5th of March. And that was the version that we looked at. and we are doing our follow-up on that audit at exactly the same time. So given the restrictions that exist, the restrictions that will still exist in the contract and the modified contract, given the changes that have been made to the collection programs that the city has for solid waste and leaf and yard waste, even given the reduced porter pay, when staff laid out the various alternatives and costed the various alternatives, our role, as requested by council, was to examine their work. And we spent quite a bit of time in that short time period working with staff. We haven't had time to prepare a report. We debriefed management last Friday, and normally we don't prepare a report until after our debriefing is complete, so that was complete on Friday. There's a fairly aggressive schedule in place to, I assume, meet the terms that have been discussed between the city and Orgerworld, and we were asked if we would brief your committee today, and I guess council later, we agreed to provide that briefing because our work in regard to the direction from council is complete. And in our report, we will talk about the details that we found in that review. We have some recommendations going forward for future business plans, business proposals, how they're laid out, for example, in presentation to committee and council. We have some recommendations that you'll see in our report when it's issued that relate to some of the work that staff would do in future in relation to this project. But none of our work identified any changes to the supported recommendation. All of our analysis came back to, first of all, our analysis indicated that the work that was done by staff was accurate, and that the recommendation that they are making to committee, as it's laid out to you, is accurately supported, and the modifications that we suggest wouldn't change the recommendation.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Just my last question to you, sir, is were there any recommendations or guidance or direction you provided to the general manager that's not covered off in the report today that we're receiving?
The recommendations that were provided to the general manager in the debriefing are about improvements that can be done, can be incorporated into the process in future analysis of business plans. And none of our recommendations would affect the recommendation that is being made by staff to this committee today.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Chair, I have a significant number of questions for the public works staff, so if I could be added to that list, it would be appreciated.
Certainly. Councillor Cloutier, you had questions for the auditor, did you, or no? The auditor. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci, Monsieur le Vérificateur Général. Just to follow up a little bit on Councillor Brockington's question. So you weren't able to finish your work today to present the full results today. Is that correct? You weren't able to, I'm sorry, you finished your work, you weren't able to complete your report.
Monsieur le Président, the councillor is correct. All of our work is complete. We have given the committee our finding that the recommendation by staff is supported by the analysis that they did, and a review of that analysis has found it to be accurate.
Okay.
Our work is only complete when we submit a report to Audit Committee and then eventually Council. At this point in time, we have not finished our report, and our report will be included with the follow-up report that we are doing on the 2014 audit on the sole source separated organics
Okay.
procurement.
Merci. Et quand est-ce qu'on va avoir ce rapport-là? Quand?
J'espère, I hope that our report will come forward at a scheduled meeting that we have in early June.
Early June, okay. Again, following up on Councillor Brockington, I think he asked you if based on your findings, that this was the best contract, maybe contract's not the right word, the best option for the city. Was that a yes or a no, or from your perspective?
Mr. Chair, the Office of the Auditor General was very detailed about the problems that it identified with the original contract and the original layout of the program as it rolled out. And city management has been able to reduce the putter pay, and that certainly contributes to, that certainly reduces some of the excess costs that we identified in our audit in 2014. But nevertheless, we are still left with a putter pay that represents more than the sole source separated organics that we are currently generating. So given the restrictions of the contract, or even the modified contract, the way we are currently collecting the green bin program and leaf and yard waste, and all of those programs are operating to meet the terms of the contract that was signed earlier with OrderWorld. And given all of those restrictions, including the reduction and the other alternatives that staff examined, and they laid those alternatives out, our city-owned facility, a new contractor continuing with the existing program, the analysis supported going with the modified contract with OrderWorld. And the work that was done by staff was accurate, and we were asked to perform that function, and we did. But that certainly doesn't change our opinion of the origins of this program. But there are certain elements that the city is living with and will continue to live with, although there's been a modification of the putter pay.
Are you referring to, Mr. Auditor General, the leaf and yard waste issue, in that currently leaf and yard wastes are being, because we've collected 533,000 tons, divide that by 7, that's 74,000 tons per year, which is just below the new level of the putter pay, but that includes leaf and yard waste. Are you referring to the fact that we could, or we had an alternative to process leaf and yard waste at a lower cost? Is that what you're referring to at a, I think one of the delegations said $20 per ton or $15 per ton? Or am I off track in? Is that your reference?
Mr. Chair, the councillor is in the ballpark, but the point that we made in the original audit was that the way the program was rolled out, it was rolled out to allow, or to whether it was allowing or permitting or demanding commingling of sole source separated organics and leaf and yard waste, a larger green bin, for example, than is needed for the amount of organics that are generated by the average household, allows or permits or encourages, whichever term you want to use, individuals to add leaf and yard waste to their green bin. And with a put or pay that used to be 80,000 tons, the program, including the solid waste pickups, the leaf and yard waste pickups, and the green bin pickups, were changed to maximize at that time, with those restrictions, maximize the city's position given the restrictions of an 80,000 ton put or pay. And going forward, it's incumbent on staff, as the sole source separated organics quantity grow, as they are predicting or hoping, through the addition of dog waste and plastics in the program. As that quantity increases and approaches the new lower put or pay, I am certain, and we will certainly be recommending so, that staff be aware of and look towards opportunities to reduce that commingling, to maximize the return to the city under a revised contract with Orgoworld, if that's what the committee approves. Because there is no doubt that sending a ton of leaf and yard waste to Trail Road for processing is less expensive than sending it commingled with sole source separated organics. There are, however, current restrictions in the way that collection happens that introduce additional costs that help with this business case.
As we ask staff in a couple of moments questions on this contract, and they'll be commenting maybe on tonnage per year of source separated and leaf and yard. Are you in a position, before issuing your report, because you said the work's not done till the report's finalized, will you be in a position to evaluate or estimate or comment on those estimates provided by staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will be in a position to talk about those estimates provided by staff. Okay.
Just one more question, Chair. I think you said that staff didn't provide a robust challenge to the work by the